All right, everybody. Welcome to Uncle Bronson's podcast. We're really excited today because we have Josh Martin here, the owner and founder of Solid. Really excited to talk to him here about it. He's on Connect NIL, which is so cool, getting connected to college athletes. Welcome to the show. Appreciate it,
Oh
Josh.
man, Bronson, I'm on with the legend, man. I'm on with the legend. So it's an honor. Thanks for having me on. I know we're late night at the end of a late week. I don't know how either of us still have it in us to be on here, but for you, it's worth it, man.
Oh, no. I'm so excited, honestly, because you as a person and your new company, I've heard so much about it and I've tried it. I love it. So maybe just tell us about your background just to get things started.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because my background, right? My professional background isn't anywhere in this realm. It was my background was in the corporate world, a lot of work in higher education,
Cool.
And that was the background professionally. But man, once you start asking questions, right, and really diving into stuff, you start taking sharp rights and sharp left, and you end up way out somewhere that even a handful of years ago you thought you wouldn't be. But born and raised in California, so California is the home state. Stayed all the way there. Left from there and served a mission from a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints down in Venezuela.
Cool.
So don't plan on hearing that anyone else has been down there because we were the last ones. No one's been back since. It's kind of crazy down there. Got back, got married really quick, probably a couple months, a week after I was back, met my wife, and a couple months after that we were married. And stayed in California about a year. Went to Arizona, stayed there for 7 years. Our first 4 kids were all born in Arizona.
Cool.
And then came to Utah. We've been in Utah 10 years and never thought I'd be in Utah, right? When I was younger from California, we'd visit Utah and I think, man, that place is just weird. It's just a weird place. Church on every corner, kind of weird people. Let's just make fun of them, but let's never live there, right?
Yeah.
And then I've been here and I looked around and I realized everything I thought was absolutely true, but I like it, but I really love it. It's absolutely true, but it's my place.
Great
And
people
so
over there in Utah.
yeah, good people. I just as I've grown and matured, I've switched weird for good. Just my vernacular has changed, right?
Yeah.
So we've been out here about 10 years. Our last 4 kids were all born here. So we got some Arizona babies and some Utah. 8 kids, yep. 8 kids from 16. So cool. You just count every 2 years all the way down pretty much. 4 girls and 4 boys. So it's the right mix. I don't know if there can be a right or wrong mix, but it feels right for us.
Yeah, that's great.
And then I've been here 10 years and really in the last few years we've really taken some big steps, some big risks, some big leaps, right, personally and professionally, and decided to do something that's absolutely never been done in the world of sports nutrition and supplementation. And that's no easy feat. It's not easy. I guess we had 7 kids at the time, but saying, you know what, we're just gonna throw caution to the wind and sell it all and go for it. And probably would have been much easier doing it as going the entrepreneurial route as a young man. I wish I would have.
You're still young. You're not even in your prime yet.
I'm not. But when you've got a family of 10 that you've got to worry about, sometimes if it keeps some people up at night a little bit, it'll keep that kind of person up at night a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
So it was I just really switched gears and just really didn't have that. My parents were very safe. It was go get a job, work it, and retire. There was no encouragement to go out and do it yourself. And so it took me learning and looking around me and seeing, well, in this corporate world, I'm killing it. But I just think I'm killing it because the ceiling's here and I'm here and look how close I am.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to realize outside of here, there is no ceiling. It's endless possibilities. So I'm here. And then now I look all the way up there and I'm thinking, what am I doing? Like this, I've got to really go for it. So going for it's probably tough at any
faith, seriously. A lot of faith.
It's probably tough at any time, but we decided to do that. And luckily it's to the extent it's worked out well, it's worked out well and a lot more work to do.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. That's so cool. I mean, I bet you the lessons along the way have been just awesome, especially like you said, like that ceiling, to jump out of it and get into that position where now there is no ceiling. That's impressive. That's a lot of people, it's hard for them to do that. So props to you for doing that, and excited to see where it all goes. So tell us about Solid. I am so interested. I'm a big, well, first I should tell everyone, I'm a big supplement person. I've been taking supplements long time. I mean, obviously the first supplement I think I ever took was in high school, was protein and
What was it? What do you remember it being?
pre-workout. I
The
mean,
pre-workout.
I'd never been exposed to it because I'm the oldest in my family. So I was the first one to go through and like high school sports. And I remember just seeing everyone in the locker room taking something. And I'm like, what's that? And they're like, oh yeah, it gives you energy. And I'm like, oh, give me some. I'll try it, and tried it out. And
Bronson's the pre-workout pioneer, man. That's
seriously, I'm just like, I have no idea what this is, but I learned fast, honestly. And then obviously, you start to learn the importance of it. And then, I mean, even in college, it's so important, especially I feel like it's even more important now than ever because we know how important like hydration is. That's probably the one that's hit the most recently. I would think it's just like the hydration part of things. So I mean, no athlete wants to cramp, and I've cramped before, and it's the worst. Like you start to feel your calves start to grab, and you're like, oh no, here we go. But yeah, I love supplements. I mean, I know how important they are, and so it's awesome uh, that you have Solid now. So yeah, love to hear all about it. So how did it get started? What is it? Like, tell us all about it.
good question, man. And I love that, intro, even though it wasn't meant to be an intro. I love that story because you really kind of hit the nail on the head with how it started as far as your experience, in high school, seeing pre-workout and everyone's doing it. So let me try it. Right. And I think when it came to supplements, I think what we've done and what the world has done unanimously is not ask questions. We just haven't asked questions. This is what you take, and they say to take this much. I won't ask why. They say it takes this long, wait 30 to 40 minutes. Since you mentioned pre-workout, we'll talk that. We can talk hydration as well. We've done it all, but I won't question why it takes that long. I won't question once I swallow it, what actually happens. I'm never going to look up and see how it actually gets in my body or how much of it is getting. Me too. I just didn't ask questions, right? My dad did, me, my daughter, who's a competitive, she wrestles for the Utah national team. I mean, we're on our third generation of scooping powder, right? And no one has asked a question. And so it really started with that, Bronson. It started with asking questions.
Cool.
One day I just said, well, why is this the best way? Is this really the best way? I take powder, in this case, mix it with water and drink it. What happens when I do that? And I just started research. I mean, again, it wasn't my field of study. I just started researching just online and what does it do? And I came across a lot of medical terms and a lot of scientific terms, and came across the hepatic first pass effect. What happens when you swallow a pill or when you swallow liquid, and the path it travels. Food goes down one way and liquid will do something else, and it goes through literally goes through organs that are made to filter it out, right?
Interesting.
And
See, I don't know any of this stuff, but to be honest with you, so this is super
yeah,
interesting.
I mean, one of the main causes of liver failure, liver damage is over supplementation. It's the liver filtering out all these supplements that we're pounding down. It's a very, I have a water bottle right here, powder mixed in water, or even like a Gatorade, which is powder already reconstituted in water, is a very unnatural way to absorb nutrients. It's not how the body's made to do it. To the extent that we can put enough in there, sure, some of it will absorb, but it goes through that hepatic first pass process that goes through a lot of filtration to where, as the back of your old pre-workout would say, 30 minutes later, 20, 30, 40 minutes later, it'll kick in. Well, what happens? What is that 30 minutes? And that's what that 30 minutes is. It's really a 30-minute filtration process that your body is filtering these nutrients out of the water. And then, to the extent that you have 10, 20% left max, that's what enters full circulation. And I thought, well, that seems pretty ineffective. So 90% of what I'm taking, I don't even need, which begs the question, where's that going? Like, what's my body doing with that? And all kinds of things, you feel weird, you feel jittery, you crash, heaven help us, sometimes you got to run to the restroom for both numbers, right? All kinds of things are happening in your body because we had to take so much in order just to get a little bit to absorb. And I thought, man, that doesn't seem very effective or efficient. So then I said, well, let's go to absorption then. Let's take the research there. And what's the best way to absorb? We got hypodermic injection, we have needles, and, probably don't want to see needles, around the field or the basketball court or the gym, and, everyone just shooting themselves up with it instead. And so that's not very commercially effective. And then really just under that, the mechanism of absorption that our bodies are designed to use is what's known as intraoral absorption. This is something medical has been trying to tap into at mass for a long time. And what that means is that in our mouths, within our mouth, the lining of our mouth, so the oral mucosa, kind of a lot of big words, the buccal tissue, the tissues within our cheeks and gums, the sublingual capillaries under our tongue, those blood vessels. The mouth is highly vascularized. It's made to absorb nutrients directly into the bloodstream.
Oh, interesting.
So it's made to bypass the gut, to bypass that whole system that I spent all this time learning about how ineffective it is and how inefficient it is supplementation wise. It bypasses it completely. So think, I guess an original example of that is chewing tobacco.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I haven't done it, but I've seen it. Put it in your lips and gum, and that's to really get that nicotine directly to the bloodstream instantly. By bypassing the gut or smoking. So I said, okay, so that's the way. So how come they're not into that form? So you just keep asking questions, right?
Yeah, you just keep digging. You're just digging more and more.
And either it's just going to be a fun waste of time, or it's going to lead somewhere. And all I thought it was a fun waste of time. I'll tell you, in that process, I stopped using powders because I thought, man, I don't even know why I'm doing this anymore, because I was so jaded at that point when you start asking questions. And so I guess I said, well, how come nothing's in this form? So now I start researching all the things that are in this form, things that are in more of a, compact, compressed, tabletized form, but are made to, not just swallow, but chew, maybe something that's a chewable or something like that. And what I started learning, Bronson, is that really these things were, 90 to 99% fillers and sugars and binders and all these things that you need in the manufacturing process, and maybe 1 to 10% of the actual nutrient. Which then would mean, okay, if I wanted I know it's more like 10, 15 grams, but if I wanted a 5-gram serving of pre-workout, now that's this big, massive 50-gram serving of pills that you'd have to absorb through. It's just impossible, right?
Yeah.
Probably more impossible than shooting yourself up with a needle. So I said, well, that's got to change. I wonder if I can change the manufacturing process. And so I started looking into manufacturing. How can we get these powder-based nutrients into this intraorally absorbable form to do away with every ineffective piece of this of drinking supplements and every inconvenient piece, mixing powder and shaking and drinking and waiting 30 minutes, or having a big Gatorade and being bloated with water and a big old energy drink, to 300 milligrams of caffeine only to absorb 30 of it. And so that was the next step. And I'm not from that world. I'm not from the manufacturing world. I was flying all over the country, experts here and talking to people there. Utah's kind of a mecca of that. I literally started going door to door to manufacturing facilities and knocking on the door and saying, I have an idea, I have a concept, I need to use your facility. And came across a guy who thought I was just crazy. He said, either you're so crazy and far out there, this won't last long. So I'll be a nice guy and say yes. Or you're so crazy and spot on, I want to be your friend. So I'm going to say yes.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that now. That happens a lot in life,
And now we're best friends. Now we're best friends. So it was the manufacturing part. So it took a long time. So basically what we did is, we didn't invent what you mentioned, hydration and electrolytes. We didn't invent pre-workout. You've had it since high school. We didn't invent amino acids and recoveries. We also didn't invent intraoral absorption. It's
been around.
Been medically proven, the most clinically proven nutrient delivery, period. We didn't invent it. So what's special is we figured out the manufacturing hack is what I figured out to bring those two together.
Sweet.
So that was it. So then Solid was born, and we were able to put that together and now have the most nutrient dense nutrient delivery, because we found out the way to go from 90 to 99% garbage and 1 to 10% active ingredient, and we actually inversed that and flipped it on its head. And I figured out a way to put those nutrients in an intra-absorbable form without using any sugars, binders, fillers, anything. So now someone can take, 1/6 to 1/10 the amount and absorb up to 10x, and happens instantly through the mouth to the bloodstream without any prep work, without any wait time. We've pretty much every box that could be checked for inconvenience and ineffectiveness, we've now checked it.
Wow. Amazing. Well done to you. And yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of things that you didn't tell us about, but that is amazing that, you saw that and just asked questions and kept moving forward. And now you're where you're at right now. So that's so cool. I love it. I love it. I love how, I just love the resiliency, honestly. Well done. Well done. I think that's huge,
And I think it's something I've learned to, because I remember Bronson back. I remember one day someone was at the gym doing what you're talking about. They're scooping a pre-workout, or I'm assuming it was pre-workout. I think it was before their workout, might have been post, and it just made a mess, right? Powder everywhere and powder on their hands and a spill, and it was just a big mess. And I just said, "Oh man, that's a bummer." And he said, "Yeah, I wish they would figure out something different." And I didn't think about it at that point, but after I went through this whole process, the power of they, right? Well, who is they? We were riding in the car 2 days ago, and right in our neighborhood, we don't get good cell service. And don't make fun of me, 10-year-old, I'm gonna count down, was in the front seat, and he said, "I wish they would create a new network." And I just looked at him. I said, his name's Ace. I said, "Ace, who's they?" "Well, they, like the people who do that." "Who are the people who do that?" "Well, they," and he started thinking, and he said, "I guess there is no they." I said, "Man, you are they."
Yeah.
You are they. I was they. I wish they would do something about it. There is no they whose lifetime job is to just create everything for us. Like, that's us.
Yeah.
I wish they would have created a company to connect athletes with companies. Bronson is they, you know what I mean? Like, we have to do it. Like, if we know it needs to be done, we get out and do it, whether that's personally or professionally, whether that's, helping and loving and serving others. Like, we are, we can't see situations they wish they would do something about it. So it's the power of they, when someone completely outside of an industry and outside of a world can jump in and do something that the whole world hasn't figured out how to. I mean, if they could do that, they can do anything, right?
Yeah. No, yeah. I believe that. And that's the thing, like just touching on that point. Like, if you, as if you see something and you believe it, then you got to chase it. Like, you just have to. You just have to, because you're just doing yourself you're gonna do yourself a disfavor by not chasing something that needs to be done. And the reward of the ups and the downs, it's just amazing. So I totally agree with you.
And you have that. I mean, you just had your second kid, right? And that's your parenting just compounded by double, right? Like, you more responsibility, and that's why I've had members of my family who just, you're wasting your time, and it's foolish. And then some people who vocalize, is that a responsible thing to do? Was that a sell your house and do this and that? And I think, well, you have such a large family. Is that a responsible thing to do? And after I thought about it, I mean, maybe only a minute, I realized, man, the most irresponsible thing for me to do would be to not go for it, like you just said. Yeah. Because I have that many more people that I need to be an example for. And if I did fail, at least they saw someone go for it, right? When I grew up, I didn't see, my parents are great. I didn't see them go for it. I didn't see them go for anything. I saw them be safe and comfortable, and it was great. Yeah. But at least I said, no, this isn't, it would be irresponsible for me to just keep providing just a comfortable lifestyle and just be status quo. That would be irresponsible. Yeah. So to your point, there's so many reasons why we have to go for it. And it's cliche, but even going and failing, but showing that you went for it, even that example for our kids is huge, because that's a lot of people who I want to go for it. And the cool thing is, there's so many that at least one of them should make it, right? Like, at least one of them will. But it would be irresponsible for me not to go for it. Like you said, you have an obligation to yourself and to everyone watching, so that they can have that example. Yeah. No, I love that. And I'm a big believer in the power of example. Like, I think
we all wouldn't be where we're at, without examples. Like someone had to kind of just start like that little bit of desire flame in you to be like, okay, I'm gonna do that, or I think I can do that. Like even with me, I think about like being in the NFL. I honestly, like growing up, like my dad never really pushed me to play, you know, sports or do any. I could do whatever I could have done whatever I wanted, but then, as I got into it and I saw, it didn't really hit me like, oh, you can be in the NFL. Like every kid wants to be a professional athlete, but it didn't really hit me until like I was sitting there. I remember I had, my first year in college at the end, and I remember seeing my teammate Ziggy Ansah get drafted into the NFL, and I was like, I want to do that. I can do that. Like, let's do this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I never really thought about it. I was just out there having fun. Like, and I was like, oh, this is something I'm good at. Like, it's awesome. Like, I love playing with my friends, and and it's just, but I never really hit me like, but the example, honestly, the example that someone else set, like, set that fire off, and then it just couldn't be stopped. Like, I was willing to sacrifice a lot, and like you said, now I become an example for someone else. So I think that's important.
Take me back to your dad though. So question for you. I mean, you said he didn't really, because I do see a lot of parents, I do see a lot of parents who are really pushing. It's the league or bust, whatever league that is, right? And I mean, from 12 years old, that's the number one priority. You here in Utah, and you
everywhere, Texas, California, Florida, everywhere.
Everywhere. But you said something that was interesting. You said your dad just, hey man, do what you want to do and love it. And do you think that helped? Being able to choose on your own, that wasn't someone driving you for it. You saw someone's example and you said, I'm going to go after that. Do you think that helped you develop the will all on your own instead of being pushed into it?
Definitely. It definitely did, because I think about it, and I had friends burn out and not play as well because it wasn't that they weren't playing the game out there.
Mm-hmm.
It was their dad's thoughts and words and everything in their brain playing instead of the actual, kid doing it. And so for me, I felt like it was very freeing and allowed ownership. So I owned it. Like it wasn't my dad owning this.
Mm-hmm.
Like I own the fact that I want to play, keep playing. And like I was like, I didn't even know. I mean, my dad was a football coach, and I didn't even know how a scholarship works when I got offered to go to BYU.
That's great. That's great for him, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's a great example. Yeah. But I guess just circling back now, okay. Like, yeah, I love it. I love your story. I just and I love, it's gonna what you got going on can help so many people. So with Connect NIL, I love it because you're getting connected to college athletes, and college athletes are able to, use Solid. So I guess what's your experience been with college athletes using Solid?
Yeah, and this was crazy. It was so crazy because there's years of development, and even worked with doctors out of Medical College of Georgia and other places, and they're really excited on the medical implications of this, being able to flush patients, for example, with aminos by bypassing the gut, right? And so we did a lot of medical, and then someone said, here in Utah, and someone said, well, there's a nutritionist over at BYU. I grew up in California. I didn't grow up a BYU fan. I didn't know much. I'd never even been on the campus, I don't think, until that moment. And they said, well, let me introduce you and you can tell them. And I thought, I'm only 20 minutes away. That's fine. And so this was before last season. So we're talking about May of, this is in the height of COVID, May of 2020.
Yeah.
And then he said, well, what do you got? And I said, well, it's not your average thing, but there's this science of intraoral absorption, and we patented the process to put things into this form in a certain way that eliminates all the. And his jaw dropped and his eyes got big, and he said, I know that science.
Oh,
and he went on to tell me so many stories about he's been doing that, and I think Dan.
Yes, he was there. Yes, he was my nutritionist when I was at BYU.
Smart guy. Funny guy, smart.
Yes.
Been in the game a long time.
Long time. He played. Yeah, he played sports. He's done it all. Yeah.
and he's still doing stuff. He said, I remember back as early as the 80s when I learned about this. He said I would keep warm, flat Coke around, and if players were training too hard or going, balling out too much, or they're lifting too hard in the weight room and they're puking their guts out, he said I would actually tell them to just hold Coke in their mouth and then spit it out. And just the minute or two they'd hold it in their mouth, that the glucose and whatever else is in Coke, I don't drink it, I don't know, sodium, whatever it is, would absorb directly into their bloodstream. They wouldn't have to swallow anything down just to puke it up. They would get the instant jolt that they need, and they'd be back out there. He said the same thing with a lot of electrolyte drinks. He said we'd be better off if the players just held it in their mouth for a couple minutes and spit it out, because they would get the absorption immediately instead of having to swallow this much to only get a little bit 20 minutes later. And so he understood it. He said, could you help us? Could we work on some things together? So long story not so long, this is, well over a year before the NIL rules changed. And there I am working with a great, D1 football team.
Yeah.
And, electrolytes and other supplements that they use in the gym. That's what, we did for them. And it was for BYU, and they're the Cougars. So we, lovingly and kind of secretly just called it Cougar candy. And because it really comes out like I think someone said it's like sweet tarts with superpowers, right? It's kind of more candy form than anything. You pop and let it absorb through the mouth. And so what was crazy is pre-NIL, we were already working with Division I athletes. I think since that day till now, their record is 16-2. I think it's probably the second best in all college football, right? When we did some changes there. And so we got a whole season of these athletes betting it out and testing it, and then even went back to the drawing board, made some other changes. And then once those NIL rules changed, that was it. Players started asking for it more than just to take it, but how can I be a part of it, right? And it started with
awesome. That's so cool.
it was really cool. Started with the local players who already knew about it, DMing or some of them I had personal relationships with and said, Josh, what kind of an opportunity does that give us now? So now we get to work, and thanks to Connect NIL, we get to work with athletes across the nation, from BYU all the way to the East Coast and Syracuse, and awesome. It just couldn't have been better, because there's this platform now where these athletes and we're able to deliver something to them that's not a Me Too product. Hey, we have the same thing everyone else has, but maybe our marketing's sexier, or our label's cooler, or our bikini girls are more bikini-ish, or we didn't have to do any of that to compete. We just said we have something that doesn't exist, and it 10x's everything else. Do you want it? So it's been great working with these athletes. It's been great hearing how it changes their game on the sidelines, how it changes their game at halftime, right? Where instantly they can get energy on 1/10 the amount, because we changed absorption, because we kept it out of the gut. When a basketball player, an NBA player, goes and sits on the chairs during halftime and pounds a Gatorade, that's great, get your liquid. But what they don't know is when you actually do those blood tests and you see when it actually hits, that doesn't peak for 20 minutes. I mean, you're halfway through the third quarter or the next quarter before that even got in your system, right? They don't know that. And we developed, like you mentioned, the electrolytes that absorb instantly with no waste. And so to hear from these college athletes and professional athletes how it's changed their game, how much quicker and how much more convenient, and everyone had a question that they wanted answered. How do we make this easier? How do we make this more convenient? How do we make it more effective? How do I not have to go to the bathroom so much afterwards? How do I do? And all of those questions have been answered collectively. So it's been cool to see the game changed, really.
Jeez. Oh, that is so cool. I love that. And just like, speaking of change, and I know you've touched on it, like what I guess not the word change, but like what makes you, intraoral oral absorption is the main thing. Mm-hmm. I feel like that, listening to you is what separates you from all the other supplements, correct? Is there anything else that you would add that maybe you didn't touch on that really makes Solid different?
Yeah. Good question. That's the main thing. I mean, once you change that, you change everything. I mean, if we look at Gatorade was invented at University of Florida, I don't know, 65 years ago. Don't quote me. And I think their first flavor was lemon lime. And I mean, we can walk into the store and buy the exact same lemon lime Gatorade that they created, 60 years ago. I'm pretty sure I saw a news story recently that Richard Bronson sent people into outer space, right? That's pretty big. But you're telling me that Gatorade, I mean, the main source of Gatorade hasn't changed for 60. I mean, nothing's been innovated, right? Nothing's changed, and it's really because there was nothing to innovate until you changed the delivery, right? Until you changed the actual delivery mechanism, which was intraoral absorption. Beyond that, yeah, we were able to patent some things within the manufacturing process that allowed what we were delivering intraorally to be the most nutrient dense, right? So you could take anything and pop it in your mouth, but if it only has this much nutrient, it's not going to be that great. And so we've been able to change ratios and again have 90, sometimes 90+% of that be a flavored active ingredient instead of 90% of that being sugars and binders. So we're able to not just tap into intraoral absorption, but patent the process to make sure that what we are delivering is almost wholly nutrient and take out everything that before was used to put it into that form for the first time in the history of anything solid. So it was a big undertaking. I think it's one of those goals you have that I like to call it's a God-sized goal, right?
Yeah.
And what I've learned, and now what I mean by a God-sized goal, it's a goal so big that it's probably actually destined to fail if God doesn't step in and make sure it doesn't. Right?
Yeah.
It's way out of our control.
That's a good goal then. That's a good goal.
It's the type of goal we should all have, right? Something so big.
It's the example that you were talking about earlier. Yeah, you're chasing the God-sized goal.
Something so scary
that's inspiring.
Yeah, if he doesn't step in, we don't do it. We don't get it done. I had no idea how to manufacture. Now when I look back, I realized the whole world had this rule book, and I was so dumb, I didn't even know that rule book existed. Right. So I was just, if I did know it existed, I would have said, well, I wouldn't make something that way anyway, because I wouldn't take it like that. And so I just thought of and tried all these things that had never worked. And there's no way there wasn't divine guidance in that process. So it's the type of goal in life, Bronson, that probably so many athletes have, that the goal is so big and the goal is so great. And it's probably only achievable if, whatever that higher power is, and I refer to him as God. If God doesn't step in and help you achieve that goal, it's just not going to happen. And those are the types of goals we have to have, because those are the types of goals that keep us on point and make sure that we're doing everything we can to qualify for that help.
Wow. That's awesome. I love that just because, in life, I mean, you have to live life. Like when people say, oh, you got to live life to the fullest. I'm like, what does that mean though? Like, what does that look like? What is that? How do you do that? And it's, setting goals that are so big that they kind of scare you a little bit, honestly. But you have to jump and you have to go, and you're just, every day is a new day, and you start to thrive and you really experience life to the fullest. Like that's how you experience life to the fullest. Chase something huge.
Wouldn't the fullest be beyond our capability?
Yeah.
I mean, if we're just going to the fullest of our capability, well, that would be to deny any additional power out there in the universe, right? Like the fullest, if we really believe that, would be what we're capable of at our fullest, and well beyond that. I mean, way beyond that. That would be the fullest, because what we can achieve is great, but if we deny the power, the help, or the ability out there in the universe, or of God or anyone to help us achieve more, then we're actually not living to the fullest. And we've got 8 kids, and to some, the fullest is, those who can have more kids, which is great, and those who can't, which is awesome. But it's a God-sized goal, raising 8 kids, because I think he's got to intervene like daily. You know what I mean?
Or, you can't be everywhere, right?
He's intervening every day, so I live that goal every day. So
oh man, Josh, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me and jump on this podcast. And man, what an inspiring story. I loved hearing all the science behind Solid, and just looking forward to to the future for you. We're gonna keep some tabs on you. I'm sure a lot of people will be.
Sounds good. Yeah, we're excited, man. It's I think it teaches all of us that, the game, it doesn't matter how long we've been set in our ways or how long the game's been one way. It's no matter what happens, it can be changed. And there is no they. Like we
Yeah,
are they.
we are they. Dang, that's awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks for taking the time again. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Bronson. It's always an honor, man. And if you don't think we're keeping tabs on you, then you're up in the night, man. We're keeping tabs on you too, man.
Good. We all gotta keep tabs on each other. So that's great.
Awesome, brother.
All
Thank you
right.
so much,
We'll
man.
see you. Thanks.